As our last project before the winter break, I thought it might be fun to hop back in time a little bit and make another vector image. This one I think could be used as a digital greeting card if you wanted to send it to any loved ones who you can't see this holiday. The majority of this project will take place in vector.com because I think making the image is easier in vector, but then we'll go over to pixlr.com to make the text effect that makes it really a card. So go ahead and sign into vector.com and open up a new file. The first thing we'll do is switch over to the Pages tab and change the size of this image. We're going to go with a standard high definition image, which is 1920. I'm going to click the little chain link here to unlink the two values and make the height 1080. Or you can go down and choose MacBook Pro 15-inch from the drop-down list. Either way works. Once we do, if we zoom out a little bit using the indicators down here, we'll see that this is a little bit longer than it is tall, and that'll give us plenty of room to maneuver. I'm going to switch back over to the Layers panel, and the first thing we'll do is go ahead and create the background sky. So I'll choose a rectangle, and make the rectangle the exact same size as the overall canvas itself. And this one won't be a straight color, it's going to be a linear gradient. And so when I click on the color picker here, I have my two stops, the top stop and the bottom stop. The top stop I'm going to make sort of a darker blue. And then when I click on the bottom stop, I'm going to make that a little bit of a lighter blue. Actually, maybe I'll make the top one a little bit darker. But there should be a difference in between, and it should be visible to the naked eye. I'm going to go ahead and rename this to Sky. And I'm going to lock it because there's going to be almost no instance when I would want to move or change this in any way. And this should probably remain my bottom layer for the remainder of the project. If we refer to my model image, you'll see that the hills are made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ellipses, all stacked on each other. You'll also notice that the colors start out in a white or a gray, and they get sort of a bluish dark tint to them as they move backwards. So they go from light to medium to a bit darker. So if we go back to our new image, that's what we're going to do. I might zoom out a little bit to make it easier to see, and I'll start making some ellipses, knowing that I can change them at any time. So I'll go ahead and change this to white. Then I'll draw another one, and I'll make this one maybe a little bit darker, slightly darker than that one, but not by much. And I want to make sure that I'm not overcrowding the screen. So I'm going to make sure these these first initial ones are definitely very low to the bottom of the scene. I'll go back and I will begin adding some more. And I might give these a little bit more of a light blue tint to them. And at this point, I need to start taking my layers and probably naming them. So just to keep things straight for now, I'm just going to call this 1, 2, and 3, so I know the order that I was creating them. And I know that 3 is going to have to come down lower than these top ones. So I'm still going to inch them down because I don't want them to be taking up too much space on the canvas as a whole. So I'll just keep going. So I'll go ahead and make another one now. And I'm trying to change sort of the size a little bit so they don't all look the same. And this one maybe I'll make even a little bit darker. Sometimes it can be hard to find. So what I could actually do is get my eyedropper, make it the exact same color, which will make it a little bit easier to make it a little bit darker. Then I can have to sort of slide it over a little bit, and I get that same sort of effect. So I'll go ahead and I'll call this 4, and I'll bring 4 down even below 3. And at this point, I'm going to do one more. This one's going to stretch sort of the entire remaining part of the canvas. I'll call it 5. And even now, I don't want this to be super dark. So I'm going to bring this back up a little bit. I should have dropped it down as well so I could see what I was working with here. So maybe the same thing. What I'll do is I'll get the eyedropper, click on the next darkest one, and I'll just take that and make it a little bit darker like that. I can just sort of slide this right-hand slider down like that. You don't have to be exact with my colors. I just think the blues, the whites going to gray to light blue to dark blue works really well for this color scheme. So that's what works for me. To make my life a little bit easier, or a lot easier really, I'm going to take all of these hills and I'll put them in a group so I don't have to worry about having all of these layers on the left-hand side piling up. Because I have my sky layer locked, I don't have to worry about grabbing it by accident. So if you didn't lock it, make sure you lock it now. Now I can just grab literally everything else on the screen I can right click here and I can say group. And then I can name that group hills. And that way it's much easier and things are much more organized. But for the next part, to make things easier, I'm actually going to turn them off so I don't see them right now. Because now what we're going to work on is making the tree. And for this exercise, basically I made one tree, I changed the sizes, and I made as they get further away, I made them more transparent so it looks like they're fading into the distance. But we're going to make one single tree. But the tree's a little bit more complicated than things we've done in the past. So take a few minutes, watch me do it, and then give it a shot yourself. I'm going to start with a simple triangle here. And we're going to see that I had sort of a darker tone here for the trees. The important part is that you can see it on top of the sky layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this rectangle, and I'm just going to move it over here. I'm going to keep that in reserve here for just a second. And I'm going to take the pen tool. Now, I know that the pen tool can be a little daunting. I know that's not the easiest thing that we do, but I need you to practice a little bit. And all I need to do is I want to get some wavy lines on the bottom here. So if I zoom in here, it's just sort of some wavy lines, but it's really easy. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click, and the other times when I click, I'm going to hold down the button so I get a curve, and then I'm going to come back and hold down the button until I get a curve. But as soon as I'm off outside the triangle, it no longer matters. Now I just need to come around the tree and connect. So I get this weird shape here. And I'm going to change that weird shape to a complete and total white. If you've got a border, which is hard to see, but there is a border here, make sure you turn that off. We don't want borders on anything that we do in this project. And now I'm going to get both of those two things selected. And I'm going to go through my blending modes here. I don't want to unite. I don't want to subtract. I want to intersect. And when I intersect, what I'm doing is I'm only finding the spaces where these two shapes are both there. So look at that. That's what I get. So I get this, and I can turn it white. And I'm just going to bring it, and it's going to, oops, it needs to be a little bit higher. And it's going to sit right on top of that copy I made. Because when I intersect, I lost the rest of the triangle. So now it looks like there's nice snow frosting on top of the tree. I'll go ahead and get those two now, and I'll go ahead and group them. And I'm going to repeat this process 2 more times. So I'm going to make a bigger triangle. Let's go ahead and keep the colors the same. So I'll make it that dark blue. And I'm going to copy and paste my extra copy and just move it over here. I'm going to get my pen tool, and I'm going to do, this time, the next 2 is going to be along the bottom. So I'm just going to hold down my pen tool, and as soon as I'm off of the tree, I can just go ahead and connect them. I'll take that new shape, and I'm going to make it white. Turn the border off if it has one. And I'm going to get both of these selected, and we're going to use the intersect tool. Once I've got my intersection, I can make it white again, and I can just slide it over. Once again, I need to make sure it's on top. And I'm just going to make sure, and it'll tell you when they're lined up, just like that. So now I'll take those 2, and I'll group them. And now I can just take this, and of course we want this one to be under this one. And every once in a while, the layer order doesn't work the way it's supposed to here. So what I can always do is there's this button down here that says send to back. That's what I'll do. All right, so now I have 2 layers of my tree. I just need a 3rd one. And this one's going to be just like the last one, a little bit bigger. Okay, let me give myself some room. I will go ahead and grab the color from the rest of the tree because we need it to be uniform. And I will copy and paste. And I'll just take this one, just move it over here, get out of the way. All right, same thing. We're going to make some snow along the bottom. So I'm going to grab the pen tool. I'm just going to click, and I'm just going to click and drag, click and drag. I'm not spending too much time on this. I just want some nice curved lines. Once I'm off, I can just go around and reconnect so that I can get them both selected, and I can do the intersection so that I can turn it white so that I can bring it over. Actually, I'll bring this over. I'm going to switch the layer order this time, and once they're lined up, I missed there. I was close there. So I'll get them both selected. I will group them together, and I will make sure that they are this last piece. Let's see if it's going to work this time. If not, like I said, I'll just do this send to back thing. That works really well. And now I have a nice looking, Arctic looking pine tree with some snow on it. So I'm going to get all three of these groups and I'm going to group them together. And now this group, I'm just going to call tree. Since they're all grouped together, I only have to grab it anywhere. I don't have to worry about pulling off individual pieces like that. At this point, let's go ahead and turn our hills back on. And we're going to go ahead and move these trees. We're going to make a bunch of copies of them, and we're going to move them around to various places, and we're going to try our best to do some perspective. So trees that are closer to us will be larger, and they will also be less transparent or more opaque. Transparent and opaque being antonyms of each other. So if you look at my example here, I might have gone a little bit too dark with my color now that I look at this one. So that's okay. Not the end of the world, but maybe if I was going back, if I wanted to, what I could do is I could ungroup everything and change the color of the blue. I'm not going to worry about that for now, just to save some time. But you'll notice that I do have trees basically on every hill. And as they go to the further hills, they get smaller and they get more transparent. So let's just go ahead and I'll keep that one the way it is, and I'm just going to go ahead and make a copy. And I'll move that over here. I kind of like the idea that like this one's sort of like half off the screen. That's an aesthetic choice. You can definitely do whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here, and I might not do them all because you'll get the idea, but I'm going to make them smaller. Sometimes it might make sense for me to move them underneath of the hill. Well, not there actually. So I'll do that. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and I can come over here to opacity, and I'm going to make it a little opaque, or a little less opaque rather. And then I might go ahead and make another copy, make it a little smaller there, and make this one a little bit more opaque. And I'm going really fast here. I would definitely take my time if I weren't trying to make the video. So I'll take this one back here, and we're going to start getting really opaque. Okay, they should be real small and definitely harder to see in that last sort of that hill back there. So like really opaque. So you could even add a few more, but for now I'm going to keep pressing on. I might just try. This one doesn't want to. There we go. If I turn the opacity down a little bit, it softens that blue a little bit as well. All right, so I'm going to keep moving on, but I've added several trees. I've tried to keep my perspective in line. So let's just go ahead and keep going. I'm going to go ahead and add the house icon here. I'm going to draw this. I'll just put it up on the screen here. And we're basically going to make it like a dark gray, almost a black. I don't like the little cutout here of where the door would be. It looks a little too cartoonish for me. So I'm going to draw a little rectangle that goes to the bottom. I'm going to make that rectangle the exact same color as the house. I'm going to get both of those two things together, and I'm going to unite them. So now it's one shape, and the dumb little cutout is gone. So I'm going to take the little house, and it should be little because it's way off in the distance. And the size should make sense compared to the tree, right? So the tree being a little bit taller than the house, that makes sense to me. And it should be pretty transparent since it's way back there. And the last thing I'm going to do with the house is I'm going to make a little wisp of smoke coming from the chimney. So we're going to use the pen tool for this. And this one's a little tricky. So we're going to zoom way in. Okay, so I'm going to get my pen tool. I'm going to start at the chimney, and I'm just going to come out like here. I'm going to hold the button down. Then I might come over here and just go the other way, and then just sort of come off the screen. I'm going to come out a little bit, and I'm going to kind of, excuse me, kind of mirror the same shape, but not exactly, so that eventually it just comes back down, and I've got my little wisp of smoke. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to go ahead and give it a color. I'm not sure why it didn't have one. The same color, probably a little bit lighter. I don't want it to have a border. And this should be like almost invisible. So we bring the opacity way down to maybe like 20%, depending on how dark of a color you chose initially. The darker you chose, the more transparent it's going to need to be. So something like that, to me, looks just fine. Before we finish up, I'm going to clean up my layers here a little bit. I got a little sloppy. So this path right here, if I turn it on and off, I can tell that is the smoke from the chimney. This path, I'm not sure what it is. And when I turn it on and off, I don't see anything coming and going. So it must have been, I mistakenly made a little path by accident. So we're just going to go ahead and remove it. Okay, this is going to be the house. So I'm going to go ahead and call it house. And if I want to, I could take both of those things. And by the way, if you want to get them both selected, you could always click on one in the layers panel, hold down the shift key and click on the other. And I could actually, I want to remove them. Let me do that again. And then I come over here and I can group them. And I can just call that house. Now I've got all these tree groups. I'm going to get all of them. Hold down shift, click on each one of them. And I'm going to go ahead and group all of those. And I'll just call this group all trees. And now it just helps me to keep everything simple and clean. So we've got two more things to do. We are going to be adding the moon and adding the snow. The snow we've done a bunch of times. Let's just go ahead and knock out the moon real fast. So let's go back. And this is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and get a fairly large circle, make it pure white, make sure it doesn't have a border. And I'm going to copy and paste it. And just to make things easier to see, I'm going to give it a slightly different color. And I'm going to move it in line. And I want you to remember that the bottom circle, whatever we see of the bottom circle is what we're going to end up with in the end. So that looks good to me. I'm going to get both of these circles selected. And we're going to use our blending modes. And this one, subtract, what it does, makes sense, right? It subtracts that top one from the bottom one. So we're left with just this crescent moon, which I think looks really nice. I'm just going to take it and rotate a little bit because that looks even better to me. And we'll just throw it here in the corner. And I will go ahead and call that the moon. And at this point, we're going to make the snow, which as we've done in various incantations, in various incarnations, it's basically just a bunch of very small circles. To make my life much, much easier, I'm going to lock down every single other layer. And that way I can't grab anything by mistake. I can't get anything mixed up and put them in the wrong groups. And then I'm going to come and zoom way in. And I'm going to make a really small circle. I'm holding down shift to make sure it's a pure circle, not an ellipse. I'm going to make it pure white. And I'm going to make a bunch of copies of this. As I do, I'm going to move them. And I can use the shift key and the arrow keys to move them really easy. And I might change the size of some of them. I like to have ones that are a little bit larger. And when I do, I turn the opacity down some. And then I might copy this one again. Control C, Control V. I might move it up here. I might even make this one even smaller if I can. I'll take a copy of this one. Might make it a little bit bigger, but even more hard to see. And maybe I'll just draw the smallest possible one I can draw. And I'll make that pure white. So once I have a few here, and maybe I want to sort of figure out where they are. You know, I want one more copy of this. Maybe like over there. So I'm going to zoom out now. And I'm going to get all of those, and I'm going to group them. And I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste. So I've got another set here. And I might make these a little bit bigger. I might rotate them around so it's not obvious they're the same. And I might do it again. And I'm worried that actually, you know what? I don't like these. I'm just going to go ahead and if I make them bigger, I need to hold down the shift key. That's what I didn't do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you get these random looking shapes like that, and you don't want that. So we're just going to go ahead and make a few of these for now. I'm going to get them all selected. And I'm going to copy and paste that. And I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to move that over here. Maybe I get this one and all of these next to each other. And I'm going to get all of those selected. I'm going to copy all of those. I missed them. Let me do that again. What I could do at this point is I could group them. So I'll group them, and then I can just copy them really easily. And I can move these over, and I can spread them out some. Then I can get all of these. You get the pattern here, and I'm just going to move all of these down here. And maybe I'll do that one more time, and I'll put those sort of down here in the actual scene itself. But we're probably going to have more snow than we've had stars in the past, just because. And I think it's a little bit scant at the top here, so I'm going to put some up the top here. And I think that looks pretty nice. At this point, we are going to go ahead and we are going to export. So we're going to export it. This could be SVG. Actually, let's go ahead and make it a PNG. And we're going to go ahead and download it. Give it a name. So I'll say, I'll call it holiday card. And we're going to hop over into Pixlr E. So I'm going to get into Pixlr E. I'm going to make a new image. Or I was going to say open image rather. And I'm going to open up my holiday card. Here it is. Looks really nice. I like the text function in this one much better. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the text function. Yes, I want to add a text layer. And you can put whatever you want here. Season's greetings is a nice sort of non-denominational thing to say around this time of year. You could always say happy holidays. If you celebrate a certain religion, if you wanted to say Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah, that would be fine. That's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and get them selected here. Make sure I have the text tool so that I can go ahead and change. Come on. Oops. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. And find a font that sort of looks a little bit more maybe holiday-ish to you. That's kind of cool. So I'll go ahead and I'll keep that. I might make it red, but that makes it kind of hard to see, which is why I absolutely love the fact that I can put a glow on this. So that, remember, to do that, I need to go up to Layer. I'm going to rasterize, and now I can get it. Nope. Now I can get it selected, and I can go up to Filter, and I can add an outer glow. And I can always play around with the size of the glow, and the feather, and the opacity. But it is so much easier to read once I've done that. So I think it would be a great card if you wanted to go back and you could have different versions of this. So you could actually like tailor make this to certain people. You could say happy holidays, comma, grandma or whoever. And you could email it to them or take a picture and send it to them on your phone. It'd be a nice, simple little holiday card because you might not be able to see other people that you love this holiday season, which I know is kind of a bummer. So once you have your text and you have the outer glow, then it's just a matter of saving it. So give it a name. For this, at this point, use JPEG because that way it won't be too big to turn in on Jupyter. And you can press download once again. And this time I might say holiday card. And to remind myself this is the one I'm turning in, I might say finished. Because if you turn the other one in, you're gonna turn the one without the words and you're gonna lose some credit. So I'll just save that one. That's the one you turn into Jupyter. And you're all set. And if I don't see you, I hope you do have some wonderful holidays and a Happy New Year. And I'll see you again in January.